Consider this. You are 65 years old and have been driving for 49 years of your life. Then one day, everything comes to a halt, and you no longer have the freedom of being able to drive wherever you want at any time. How would this make you feel? What would you do? Follow me on the journey of explaining how elderly people feel about being retested for their driver's license.
Get out of the way, idiot!
Elderly adults fight to keep their rights to driving, whether others agree if it is safe or not. During this episode, I will be discussing the challenges the elderly face on retesting for their driver's license. Many elderly people agree that they do not want their rights to driving ripped from their hands. What will they do about this? Elderly driver Iris Kissoon goes to tell how the younger generation of drivers are the most problematic drivers, and they are not being taught as well as her generation. A quote from the Should the Elderly Retake Their Driving Tests goes on to say, I am of the age group and was in my 20s when I was taught to drive by my father. He taught me defensive driving, roadcraft, and how to keep an eye on the traffic ahead. Before passing my test, I had mastered slowing down and changing gears in good time at a junction. Green, paragraph 1. She firmly believes her driving and the way she was taught is more effective than today's drivers. This information is useful because the elderly people highly disagree with the people around them, saying they should get off the road. This age group most likely consider themselves better drivers than the new generation due to more experience behind the wheel. Why have full-on driving retests when maybe it isn't necessarily their driving skills? When people age, their driving skills don't get worse. Their certain motor skills decrease. This specific article goes over the opinion and struggles of an elderly that explains her concerns about having to retest for her driver's license at the age of 65. She goes to tell that there could be other precautions taken instead of this. This is a quote from the same article, Should the Elderly Retake Their Driving Tests? Mandatory retesting of older drivers does not have some merit. Might I suggest an alternative? Annual eye tests should be a must. At the age of 75, drivers should have an hour's assessment by a driving instructor. Morris, paragraph 6. An annual eye test for elderly people would be a great investment and make more sense at this age group as to why driving could possibly be taken from them. This section is really important because it shows how they would rather have an alternative testing done on their motor skills rather than having to retake their driver's test. I think this can help the elderly age group understand why they cannot drive because of specific other reasons than motoring a car. The elderly folks of New Plymouth, Hawera, and Stratford have all been informed of having to retake their driver's test. How will the Waitara elderly community come together to fight? A quote from the Waitara elderly angry at driver retesting changes. About 20 members of the Waitara Services and Citizens Over 60s Club turned up at the Waitara Community Meeting Board. This age group uses their cars for groceries only and not being in town. Why would these elderly people need their vehicles taken away when they only use them to supply their needs? The elderly deserve to have freedom with driving and doing what has to be done to live. These elderly go over not only driving in certain areas where they can get food and go back home. How harmful could it really be just driving to the store and back? Another quote from Waitara elderly angry at driver retesting changes. He said, most of the Waitara elderly community only drive into the center of town to get their groceries and then go back home. They probably haven't driven in Plymouth for years. Lynch 6. This text proves even the president agrees. This is really important because the elderly have to get into town to get their food, and without them doing that, who will get their supplies and how will they get everything that they need? This will be really important for not only the elderlies, but for everyone else around them that's scared. Pondering the question, should elderly drivers be retested to drive? It's truly an important topic that we have looked further into explaining everyone's perspective. Whether it's your grandma driving or someone you have never met, road safety will always be extremely important to everyone around us. Now, having heard all these stakeholders, it shows how truly hard the question is to answer. So, do you think elderly drivers should be retested?